have a quorum and we're ready for business. Welcome back to Boise for another week of interesting stuff. Welcome all those who are here in the audience with us today. We do have an overflow so that other folks can listen to what we're doing. Just some ground rules right to begin with is that this is an RS that you're probably here concerned about. We do not allow any testimony on that is presented to the committee, and then the committee will decide whether or not to introduce the legislation. At that point, you'll have an opportunity to comment on it when it comes before the committee for a hearing. So with that, we do have the minutes of January 23rd and 24th before us. Representative Jordan.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the minutes for Monday, January 23rd, 2017.
You've heard the motion. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Now the minutes of January 24th, Representative Armstrong.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the minutes as written for Tuesday, January 24th.
You've heard the motion. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion is carried, and the minutes are approved. The committee will now have under consideration RS 25073. Representative Cheney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome to State Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You've remodeled since I was here last. Well, I feel as though maybe I don't need to go into much detail at all. It seems that there's quite a bit of perception out there already without having introduced the RS about what's in the contents. That having been said, though, some of the reaction already has made me keenly aware of some of the emotion behind this issue. And so, while my tendency is to cut straight to the chase on these RSs, gone in 60 seconds is I think the best strategy for a print hearing, I feel compelled to start by saying that this is an issue that needs addressed with a certain degree of sensitivity, and I'm aware of that. Immigrants are some of the hardest working, most family-oriented, and God-loving people I've ever met. They're valuable members of the community, and frankly, the large number of illegal immigrants in the country is more a sign of profound incompetence by the federal government over the past several decades than it is any fault of the people who've come here to make a better life. And that transcends party. Republican and Democrat administrations alike have found themselves unable to really address it. All of that having been said, not everyone who comes into the country does so with the best of intentions. Some are good, most are good, some are bad, but we don't know really who's who, and that's the federal government's job to sort all that out. And we won't really know until we actually enforce our laws. But our laws mean something. Our borders mean something. Our safety and security means something. We have a new commitment to enforcement at the national level, and with that comes new opposition, including potentially more local governments attempting to become what are known as sanctuary communities. Opposition's healthy, opposition's American. There's certainly room for disagreement on this policy. But our security should not be the price of political protest. There's a way to oppose the administration's initiatives, and sacrificing security by refusing to cooperate with the immigration authorities is not the way to do that. What this bill would do is it would establish a statutory requirement that police officers, once they have someone in custody, check with immigration to see if there's an immigration hold listed. It would specifically prohibit the use of local law enforcement as a search and discover and deport agency or arm. It would allow only detentions where individual had violated some other provision of state law as a misdemeanor or a felony. It would prohibit the adoption of policies that would discourage law enforcement from meeting the requirements of this act, and it would set out penalties and procedures for those local jurisdictions that choose to violate the act anyway. What the bill doesn't do, it has nothing to do with the refugee issue. Nothing. Zero. It does not attempt to overstep the state's role by establishing an immigration policy of our own. On the contrary, it makes sure that state, county, and city policies aren't adopted that run afoul of the federal government. And it does not seek to authorize or encourage law enforcement to seek out those who have violated immigration law alone. In fact, it specifically prohibits that. The need for this, like I said, with the new emphasis on enforcement at the federal level, there may be a new initiative among certain local governments to move forward. Additionally, the executive order that specifically addresses sanctuary communities, I believe, may be on somewhat precarious legal footing in light of recent case law. Something I'd be more than happy to go into in greater detail at a full hearing. I certainly hope that the steps of enforcement that are being undertaken by the federal government are just one prong of a multifaceted, comprehensive reform of immigration. That having been said, frankly, that's outside the purview of what we're talking about here. So, in an attempt to protect and guarantee the safety and security of citizens of the state of Idaho, I would respectfully request that this committee print this bill. I would further request the addition of an emergency clause in the motion to print. With that, Mr. Chairman, I would stand for questions.
Are there questions? Representative Giddings.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Representative Cheney. I notice in here you talk about some local law enforcement agencies having to do some work to conform to this. And then I reference back to your fiscal impact, and you're saying there's no impact to the fund. Can you explain to me how you figured out that there's no fiscal impact?
Representative Cheney.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Giddings, there's no impact to the general fund. All of these monies that could potentially be expended in updating policy manuals are local. But as far as the general fund is concerned, there is no fiscal impact for that.
Further questions? Hearing no further questions, the RS is before the committee. Representative Barbieri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that we introduce RS 25073
With the addition of an emergency clause.
with the addition of emergency clause.
You've heard the motion. Is there discussion on the motion? Hearing none, the motion is to introduce RS 25073 with the addition of an emergency clause. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
No.
The ayes have it. It will be introduced. Would you like to be recorded as voting no? Representative Jordan will be recorded as voting no. The committee will now have under consideration House Bill 54.